Paying off a mortgage early is often treated as the ultimate sign of financial maturity. For millions of homeowners, writing that final check to the bank feels like crossing the finish line of personal freedom. The underlying mechanics of long-term debt reveal a completely different reality. Your bank relies on your desire for home ownership to secure its highest return on capital during the first 10 years of your loan. By the time you pay off your home early, you have already handed over the majority of the interest profits to the institution. By the end of this video, you will understand the exact mathematical breakdown of front-loaded interest and how buying a home compares directly to renting and investing the difference in today's economy. You will see precisely where every dollar goes over a 30-year period and why owning a property is not always the best path to net worth expansion. Consider Jake and Marcus. Both earn $75,000 a year, hold identical credit profiles, and start with $100,000 in liquid savings. Jake purchases a $500,000 home with a 20% down payment, while Marcus chooses to rent an equivalent property and invest the difference. Their identical starting points produce two radically different financial outcomes.
To understand homeownership as an investment, we must strip the concept down to its absolute first principles. A house is fundamentally a physical asset that provides shelter while consuming capital through property taxes, maintenance, insurance, and interest charges. A mortgage is simply a legal contract where a financial institution lends you capital to acquire that physical asset. The bank takes on credit risk, and in exchange, it charges you a fee for borrowing that money. That fee is called interest. Here is the single rule that governs all mortgage debt. Interest is always calculated on the remaining balance of the loan, but the payment structure is designed to collect that interest as early as possible. I will repeat that rule because it governs your entire home purchase. Interest is always calculated on the remaining balance of the loan, but the payment structure is designed to collect that interest as early as possible. This mechanism is known as standard amortization. When you take out a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage, your monthly payment stays exactly the same for 360 months. However, the internal composition of that monthly payment changes every single month. In the beginning, your loan balance is at its absolute highest point. Because the balance is high, the monthly interest charge is massive. Therefore, almost your entire monthly payment goes directly to the bank to cover interest, while only a tiny fraction goes toward paying down the actual debt. As the loan balance slowly decreases over decades, the interest charge shrinks and a larger portion of your payment begins to touch the principal. This design ensures that if you sell the home, refinance the loan, or pay off the mortgage early within the first 10 to 15 years, the bank has already extracted the vast majority of its profit. The bank wins early, while you take on all the ongoing maintenance, property tax liabilities, and real estate market risks from day one. To evaluate homeownership properly, you cannot simply look at the final sale price of the house 30 years later. You must account for all unrecoverable costs. An unrecoverable cost is money you spend that never returns to your balance sheet. When you rent, your rent payment is an unrecoverable cost. When you buy a home, your mortgage interest, property taxes, home insurance, and maintenance fees are all unrecoverable costs. Comparing renting to buying is not a comparison between throwing money away and building equity. It is a direct comparison between one set of unrecoverable costs and another set of unrecoverable costs. Let us run the real math to see which path builds true wealth.
Let us reintroduce Jake and Marcus to track their financial decisions side by side over a 10-year timeline. Jake does not check the math behind his loan schedule. He believes that buying a house is always better than renting because rent is money burned. Jake has brown hair swept to the side. He wears a navy blue polo shirt, khaki tan pants, and white sneakers. He carries an unaware and slightly worried expression whenever he checks his banking apps. Marcus checks the underlying math behind every financial commitment. He calculates unrecoverable costs before signing any contract. Marcus has dark hair styled neatly. He wears a dark green crewneck sweater, dark navy jeans, and brown leather shoes. He maintains a calm and confident expression because his plan relies on raw arithmetic. Both characters start with an annual income of $75,000 and liquid cash savings of $100,000. Jake decides to buy a house priced at $500,000 in a representative market. He uses his entire $100,000 savings as a 20% down payment, taking out a mortgage for $400,000. The interest rate on his 30-year fixed loan is 6.8%. Now let's look at Jake's exact monthly obligations. His base principal and interest payment comes out to $2,607 every month. Property taxes, structural insurance, and basic maintenance add another $1,100 per month. Jake's total cash outflow for housing is $3,707 every single month. Now consider Marcus. Marcus chooses not to buy that $500,000 house. Instead, he rents an identical house in the same neighborhood for $2,500 per month. Because Marcus rents, his total monthly housing expense is locked at $2,500. Marcus takes his $100,000 cash savings and invests it directly into a broad market index fund. Furthermore, because his monthly housing expense is $2,500 compared to Jake's $3,707, Marcus saves $1,207 every month. Marcus automates an additional investment of $1,207 into his portfolio at the end of every month. We will assume a conservative broad market return of 7% per year for Marcus's investment portfolio. Now watch what happens over the first year. In year 1, Jake pays a total of $31,284 in principal and interest payments to his lender. Out of that $31,284, $26,942 goes straight to mortgage interest. Only $4,342 actually reduces his loan balance. Jake also pays $13,200 in taxes, insurance, and maintenance. Jake's total unrecoverable costs in year 1 equal $40,142. Meanwhile, Marcus pays $30,000 in rent over the entire year. His total unrecoverable housing expense is $30,000. Marcus's initial $100,000 portfolio grows with market returns and his continuous monthly additions. By the end of year 1, Marcus holds an investment portfolio valued at $122,340. Now let us advance to year 5. Jake has now been paying his mortgage for 60 months without missing a single payment. Over 5 years, Jake has handed over $156,420 in direct mortgage payments. Of that total, he has paid $131,612 in pure interest to the bank. He has only paid down $24,808 of his original $400,000 principal debt. Adding his 5 years of property taxes, maintenance, and insurance, Jake's total unrecoverable expenses have reached $202,812. Jake's remaining mortgage balance sits at $375,192. His home equity from principal reduction is $24,808, plus his original $100,000 down payment. Assuming zero speculative appreciation, Jake's home equity total is $124,808. Now examine Marcus at the end of year 5. Marcus has paid $150,000 in total rent over 5 years. That's his entire unrecoverable housing cost.
However, Marcus has been consistently investing his $100,000 base along with his monthly savings of $1,207. At a 7% average annual market return, Marcus's investment portfolio at the end of year 5 is worth $228,450. Marcus's liquid net worth is more than $100,000 higher than Jake's accumulated home equity. Now let's run the math all the way to year 10. 10 years of payments have passed. Jake believes he has made massive progress on his mortgage. Over 10 years, Jake has paid $312,840 to his mortgage company. Out of that massive sum, $241,200 was spent entirely on interest charges. Jake has paid down just $71,640 of his $400,000 loan balance. When you add 10 years of property taxes, insurance, and required physical repairs, totaling $132,000, Jake's total unrecoverable costs reach $373,200. Jake's remaining loan balance after 10 full years of payments is $328,360. His total equity in the physical building is $171,640. Now look at Marcus at the 10-year mark. Marcus has spent $300,000 in rent over the decade. His total unrecoverable cost is $300,000, which is $73,200 less than Jake's total unrecoverable housing costs. Because Marcus kept his initial capital invested and continued adding $1,207 every single month for 10 years, his portfolio has experienced sustained compound growth. At a 7% annual growth rate, Marcus's investment account balance at the end of year 10 stands at $397,800. Marcus holds $397,800 of liquid portable wealth. Jake holds $171,640 tied up in illiquid bricks and mortar. The gap between their net worth positions is now $226,160 in favor of the renter.
Here is the part nobody puts in the brochure. Most homeowners believe that even if interest costs are high, home price appreciation will make up for the financial drain. They assume their home value will double or triple, making all those interest payments irrelevant. Let us run the real math on that assumption to expose the underlying betrayal mechanism. Suppose Jake's $500,000 home increases in value over those 10 years at a standard historical inflation rate of 3% annually. After 10 years, Jake's home is worth $671,958 on paper. Jake decides to sell the property to realize his gains. When Jake sells, he must pay broker commissions, legal closing fees, and transfer taxes, which average 6% of the final sale price globally. 6% of $671,958 is $40,317. Subtracting the transaction costs leaves Jake with $631,641. Jake must now pay off his remaining mortgage balance of $328,360 to the bank. After paying off the bank, Jake walks away from the closing table with $303,281 in net cash. That feels like a victory to Jake. He started with a $100,000 down payment and walked away 10 years later with $303,281. Jake believes he made $203,281 in profit. That calculation is a complete illusion caused by ignoring his true unrecoverable costs. To determine Jake's actual net gain, we must subtract all the money he poured into the property over those 10 years. Jake paid $241,200 in interest. He paid $132,000 in taxes, insurance, and routine maintenance. He paid $40,317 in selling costs.
Jake's total out-of-pocket overhead spent to maintain and sell that home over 10 years was $413,517. When you subtract $413,517 of overhead from his gross final payout, Jake did not make $200,000. Jake actually experienced an absolute net cash loss of $110,236. The bank made $241,200 in guaranteed interest revenue. The real estate agents made $40,317 in transaction fees. The local government collected tens of thousands in property taxes. Jake took on all the physical maintenance risk, carried all the debt liability, and walked away with less real wealth than when he started. This is the hidden cost of front-loaded amortization and home overhead. The mortgage system is engineered so that home buyers carry the entire downside risk of the physical asset while guaranteeing fixed returns for the mortgage holder early in the term. When people say renting is throwing money away, they fail to calculate the sheer volume of capital lost to mortgage interest, maintenance, property taxes, and selling friction. Renting isolates your cost to a single predictable number. It completely removes transaction fees, interest schedules, and physical upkeep expenses from your balance sheet. If you take the cash savings generated by renting and deploy that capital directly into income-generating index assets, you bypass the entire bank profit extraction mechanism.
Zooming out over a full 30-year horizon reveals the final separation between these two strategies. If Jake keeps his home for 30 years and pays off the entire loan, he spends a grand total of $938,520 on mortgage payments, interest, taxes, and repairs for a $500,000 property. His net worth is tied entirely to the single physical building. If Marcus continues renting and investing the difference for 30 years, his portfolio reaches a final value of $1,634,920 at a 7% average return. The single number that separates Jake and Marcus over 30 years is $696,400 in net liquid wealth. Here's the practical ranked action list to optimize your housing decisions, starting today. First, calculate your local price-to-rent ratio before making any home purchasing decision. Divide the total purchase price of the home by the annual cost of renting an equivalent property. If the resulting ratio is higher than 20, renting and investing the difference will mathematically outperform buying in almost every market condition. Second, if you currently hold a mortgage, stop making random extra principal payments within the first 5 years if you plan to move within 10 years. Your extra payments do not alter the front-loaded interest schedule of your primary monthly obligation, and that capital remains trapped in an illiquid asset. Third, separate your primary residence from your investment strategy. A primary home is a consumer lifestyle choice that provides shelter, stability, and personal utility. It is not an efficient wealth-building vehicle when compared to automated, low-cost, broad market index funds. Fourth, if you choose to buy a home, keep your overall housing costs below 25% of your gross monthly income to preserve capital for liquid investing. Automate your investments first so that home maintenance and unexpected costs never compromise your long-term compounding portfolio. If you want to run these numbers on your own situation, the link is in the description. Hit like if this connected dots for you. Subscribe to Noop Finance for more, and I will see you in the next video.